Shadow of Defiance. The Galactic Assembly Hall gleamed like a massive geode suspended in the void of space, its crystalline facets catching the light of 3 distant suns. Inside, representatives of 87 spacefaring civilizations debated matters of interstellar trade and territorial disputes with the practiced calm of those who had known peace for centuries. Captain Nora Vega strode through the assembly's grand entrance, her boots clicking against the polished obsidian floor. She wore the charcoal uniform of Earth's United Defense Force, emblazoned with the silver constellation emblem that marked her as part of humanity's diplomatic corps. But unlike the usual envoys who came bearing requests and concessions, Nora carried something else entirely. The human representative approaches, announced the Solani attendant, its translucent appendages rippling with bioluminescent warnings. High Arbiter Kresh, a towering Avaxi with iridescent scales and 6 calculating eyes, leaned forward from the central dais. Captain Vega, your arrival is unexpected. Earth's scheduled address is not for another 17 cycles. Nora stopped at the speaker's platform, her dark eyes scanning the chamber. Representatives from across the galaxy stared back, some curious, others disdainful. Humanity remained the newest addition to the assembly, barely 2 centuries into spacefaring capability, while most members measured their cosmic history in millennia. High Arbiter, esteemed representatives, Nora began, her voice calm but unyielding. I come not to request but to inform. For too long, humanity has been relegated to the fringes of galactic politics, our colonies restricted to resource-poor systems, our technological advancement hindered by selective enforcement of assembly regulations. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Turnuk delegate, a massive feathered being, trilled in indignation. The human speaks of restrictions when they have advanced more rapidly than any species in recorded history. The regulations exist to prevent catastrophic technological leaps. Nora's lips curved into a slight smile. And yet the Turnuk hegemony maintains a fleet of quantum-shifted warships that violate 6 different assembly protocols. The Mradi Combine has weaponized stellar manipulation. The Avaxi themselves possess planet cracker technology. She paused, letting her words hang in the air. We've noticed the discrepancy between what is allowed and what is permitted. You accuse this assembly of hypocrisy. The High Arbiter's scales darkened with anger. I state facts, Arbiter. And I bring another. Humanity is no longer playing by these uneven rules. She raised her arm, activating the holographic projector embedded in her wrist unit. Above the chamber, a 3-dimensional image materialized, a fleet of ships unlike any the assembly had seen. Their hulls were midnight black, absorbing rather than reflecting light, their shapes fluid and predatory. Energy signatures pulsed along their lengths, distorting the very space around them. The Meridian Fleet, Nora announced. 17 capital ships and 42 support vessels, powered by what we call shadow drive technology, what you would call dark matter manipulation. The chamber erupted in chaos. Several delegates rose from their seats, mandibles and tentacles and appendages gesticulating wildly. Dark matter technology had been universally banned after the Void Wars, when entire star systems had been collapsed into singularities. This is madness, screeched the Kilvari representative, its gelatinous form pulsing with agitation. Dark matter manipulation destabilizes the very fabric of space-time. You endanger not just yourselves, but all life in the galaxy. High Arbiter Kresh slammed a ceremonial staff against the floor, restoring the semblance of order. Captain Vega, if what you present is real and not some elaborate deception, you force the assembly to consider humanity a threat to galactic stability. Such technology is prohibited for a reason. Its consequences cannot be contained. Nora's expression remained impassive. We're well aware of the risks, Arbiter. We're also aware that humanity has been systematically undermined by this assembly since our admission. Our colonies suffer while your core worlds thrive. Our scientific breakthroughs are regulated while yours are weaponized. The Meridian Fleet represents our refusal to accept this status quo any longer. You speak of resistance when you should speak of annihilation, hissed Delegate Thrix of the Sylvani Consensus, its voice like rustling leaves. If these abominations exist as you claim, the combined forces of the Assembly will have no choice but to eliminate them, and possibly humanity itself. Nora's eyes hardened. The fleet isn't here for your approval, Delegate. It's here as a notification. As we speak, the Meridian vessels are moving into strategic positions throughout Assembly space. Not to attack, not yet, but to demonstrate that humanity will no longer be confined or constrained. The Assembly Hall fell silent, the weight of her words pressing down on every being present. High Arbiter Kresh's scales had paled to an ashen gray. This is not a negotiation, Nora continued. This is a recalibration of power. The Assembly has 24 Earth hours to acknowledge humanity's full sovereignty, remove all restrictions on human expansion, and grant us equal access to all technological exchanges. The alternative is a demonstration of what dark matter technology can accomplish when applied with precision. You threaten war, the Arbiter said, voice hollow with disbelief. I offer a choice, Nora corrected. Equality or consequence. She turned to leave, but the High Arbiter's voice stopped her. Captain Vega, surely you understand what you've done today. Even if we were to accede to your demands, the trust between humanity and the Assembly would be irreparably damaged. You would forever be viewed as a potential extinction-level threat. Nora looked back over her shoulder. Better to be feared than exploited, Arbiter. You've had 2 centuries to treat us as equals. Now you'll have 24 hours to decide if you can live with the consequences of your failure. As she walked away, the Assembly erupted again, but this time with an undercurrent of fear that had never before permeated these hallowed chambers. Nora kept her pace steady, her expression neutral, betraying none of the turmoil within. What she had just done would either secure humanity's future or condemn it to oblivion. Outside the chamber, in a service corridor rarely used by dignitaries, a shadow detached itself from a maintenance alcove. Nora's hand moved to her sidearm, but relaxed when she recognized the figure. They believe you, said the newcomer, a slight human man with pale eyes and a face that seemed designed to be forgettable. They should, Nora replied. The hologram was perfect. Not just perfect, it was terrifying. The man fell into step beside her. The Assembly's security protocols are already activating. 7 battle groups have been placed on high alert. The Avaxi are evacuating their leadership from the station. Nora nodded. And the other part? Confirmed. There's movement in the dead zone. Whatever's been hiding out there, your little speech just made it nervous. We're tracking unusual energy signatures consistent with your report. So I was right. You were right, the man agreed. Something's been watching us from beyond the Assembly's borders, something that made the Assembly deliberately keep humanity weak and divided. Nora's jaw tightened. How long do we have? Hours, maybe. The Assembly's too busy panicking about your imaginary fleet to notice the real threat assembling at their doorstep. They reached a small, unmarked shuttle bay where a nondescript transport waited. Nora paused before the entry ramp. Is the horizon actually ready? She asked, referring not to a phantom fleet, but to humanity's one true technological marvel, a ship that had cost Earth everything to build in secret. The man nodded. Admiral Chen says it's as ready as it'll ever be. One ship against whatever's coming might not be enough, but it's all we've got. One ship with the only actual dark matter drive in human possession, Nora corrected. It'll have to be enough. She glanced back toward the assembly hall. I've just made myself the most hated human in galactic history, Eli. Let's make sure it wasn't for nothing. As their shuttle detached from the station, alarm klaxons began to sound throughout the assembly complex, but none of the panicked officials rushing to emergency shelters noticed the small transport slipping away, nor did they detect the massive objects moving through the darkness at the edge of their territory, objects that had been waiting, watching, and were now revealing themselves at last. The real war was about to begin, and despite Nora's bluff, humanity stood alone against it. Eclipse Protocol. Admiral Helena Chen stood on the observation deck of Earth Orbital Command, her weathered face reflected in the reinforced glass as she gazed at the gleaming vessel suspended in the construction cradle below. Unlike the fictitious ships of Captain Vega's hologram, the EDS Horizon was a technological masterpiece grounded in brutal reality. Humanity's desperate gamble against extinction. "Status report," she demanded, not turning from the view. Colonel Takeda stepped forward, his uniform crisp despite having worked 30 hours straight. "Dark matter containment is stable at 98%. Weapons systems online. Shields at full capacity. The crew is aboard and ready for deployment. And our guest, the Kethnar observer, is secured in the diplomatic quarters, as agreed." Chen nodded. The Kethnar had been the only assembly species to secretly ally with humanity, recognizing the threat lurking beyond the galactic rim. Their advanced sensors had first detected the anomalies 3 years ago, but the assembly had dismissed their warnings as paranoia. "Any word from Captain Vega? Her shuttle has cleared assembly space and is en route to the rendezvous point. ETA 4 hours. Chen finally turned, her dark eyes sharp with determination. "Begin final preparations for departure. Activate Eclipse Protocol." Across the solar system, humanity held its collective breath. For 2 centuries, they had struggled at the margins of galactic society, their expansion restricted, their innovation stifled. The official narrative claimed these restrictions were for their own good. A young species needed guidance, protection from its own ambition. Few questioned why humanity alone faced such severe limitations. Now they knew the truth. They were being contained deliberately, kept weak by design. In the depths of space, beyond the assembly's carefully monitored borders, something ancient had awakened. The Harbingers, as the Kethnar called them. A race so old they had witnessed the birth of the current galactic arm. They moved through the void like predators, harvesting entire civilizations when they grew too powerful, too threatening. The assembly hadn't been protecting the galaxy from humanity. They had been protecting the galaxy from the attention humanity might draw. The horizon detached from its cradle, its hull gleaming with the dull sheen of materials never before synthesized by human hands. At its core pulsed the shadow drive, the only functioning dark matter engine humanity had managed to create. Unlike the fictional fleet Captain Vega had presented to the assembly, this single ship represented the culmination of Earth's scientific achievement, built at a cost that had nearly bankrupted the unified government. "All stations report ready," Colonel Takeda announced, awaiting final authorization. Admiral Chen placed her palm on the security scanner. "Authorization Chen Alpha 7 Eclipse. Deploy the horizon." The ship's engines flared to life, not with the familiar blue of conventional drives, but with a deeper radiance that seemed to bend the light around it. The horizon accelerated smoothly, quickly becoming a distant speck against the blackness of space. Aboard the vessel, Commander Elijah Wright settled into the captain's chair. As the most experienced deep space pilot in Earth's fleet, he had been handpicked for this mission, despite his reputation for insubordination. "Shadow drive engaging in 3, 2, 1, announced Lieutenant Park from the navigation station. The sensation that followed defied description. A momentary pressure against the mind rather than the body, a feeling of being simultaneously stretched and compressed. The stars outside the viewport smeared and then snapped back into focus, but in a completely different configuration. "Transition complete," Park reported. "We've covered approximately 12 light-years in under 4 seconds. Wright allowed himself a small smile. "Looks like the eggheads got something right for once. Set course for the rendezvous coordinates." As the horizon continued its journey, the false narrative Captain Vega had spun was having its intended effect. The Galactic Assembly had devolved into factions, those calling for immediate military action against Earth, those advocating for negotiation, and a growing number demanding to know why humanity had been subjected to such restrictive policies in the first place. High Arbiter Kresh faced the emergency session with diminishing authority. The human threat must be neutralized immediately. Their dark matter fleet. What fleet, precisely? Interrupted the Kethnar delegate, its crystalline form pulsing with deliberate calm. Our long-range sensors detect no such vessels. Could it be that the human captain was bluffing? Bluff or not, the intent was clear, countered the Sylvani representative. They threatened this assembly with technology that could unravel reality itself. Perhaps, the Kethnar delegate suggested, we should ask why they felt the need to make such a desperate play. The restrictions placed on human expansion have been unusually severe, even for a newly spacefaring species. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Avaxi High Prelate, superior even to the Arbiter, shifted uncomfortably on its ornate perch. Those restrictions were necessary, the prelate stated, but there was a hesitation in its voice that many noticed. Necessary for whom? The Kethanar's question hung in the air like a challenge. Before the debate could continue, a junior attendant burst into the chamber, protocol forgotten in the face of urgency. Esteemed delegates, the attendant gasped, our deep space arrays have detected massive energy signatures approaching from the galactic rim. They match no known configuration, and they're accelerating toward assembly space. The chamber fell silent. The high prelate's scales darkened to a deep indigo, a sign of deep distress among the Avaxi. How many? The prelate asked, its voice barely audible. Over 300 objects, ranging from cruiser to dreadnought size. They're on an intercept course with our outer colonies. In that moment, understanding dawned across the assembly. The human captain's theatrical display, the sudden revelation of non-existent dark matter ships. It hadn't been about intimidating the assembly at all. It had been about drawing something else out of hiding. At the rendezvous point, a lonely stretch of space far from any charted system, the horizon waited. When Captain Vega's shuttle finally approached, Commander Wright personally greeted her in the docking bay. Quite the performance you gave, Captain, he said as they walked briskly toward the bridge. The feeds from the assembly show they're in complete disarray. Did it work? Nor asked, ignoring the compliment. Are they coming? Oh, they're coming all right. More of them than we anticipated. The Kethnar observer is analyzing the sensor data now. On the bridge, the alien stood out starkly among the human crew, nearly 7 feet tall, with a translucent, crystalline body that refracted light in hypnotic patterns. It turned as they entered, its faceted head inclining in greeting. Captain Vega, the Kethnar said, its voice resonating like struck crystal. Your stratagem was effective. The entities my people have long feared are now fully committed to their approach. Nora studied the tactical display. How long until they reach assembly space? Approximately 18 Earth hours. They have accelerated significantly since your announcement to the assembly. They believe the galaxy's species are developing dark matter technology, a capability they cannot allow to mature. Which is exactly why the assembly has kept us technologically stunted, Nora said bitterly. They've been appeasing these harbingers for millennia, sacrificing emerging civilizations to keep the peace. The Kethnar's crystalline body dimmed slightly. My people attempted to warn the assembly centuries ago. We were dismissed as alarmists, relegated to the political margins. When we detected your species' unusual potential and saw how the assembly moved to contain you, we recognized the pattern. Commander Wright frowned at the tactical display. We have one ship against hundreds. Even with the shadow drive, those aren't odds I'd bet on. The horizon was never meant to fight them directly, Nora reminded him. We just need to get close enough to deploy the beacon. The Kethnar moved to a specialized console, its crystalline appendages interfacing with the controls. The quantum beacon is primed. If your scientists' theories are correct, it will disrupt the Harbinger's unique subspace field coherence. And if they're wrong, we'll have front-row seats to the end of human civilization, Wright added grimly. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main view screen. Captain Vega. Commander Wright. The assembly has just contacted Earth. It seems they figured out what's really happening. Are they mobilizing their defense forces? Nora asked. Chen's expression was grim. They're evacuating their core worlds. The Avaxi High Council has admitted they've known about these entities for thousands of years. They've been sacrificing emerging civilizations to keep them satisfied, including us. Anger flashed across Nora's face. So they were just going to let us die? Not all of them, Chen replied. The Kethnar have publicly broken with the assembly. They're sending what ships they can to support the Horizon. The Kethnar observer's body brightened. My people understand that if we continue this cycle of appeasement, eventually none will remain to stand against the Harbingers. Commander Wright checked the tactical display again. Kethnar vessels are fast, but they won't reach us before the Harbingers arrive. We're still on our own for the initial engagement. Nora squared her shoulders. Then we'd better make it count. Prepare for shadow drive jump. We're intercepting the Harbinger fleet before they reach assembly space. As the Horizon prepared for its desperate mission, the truth about humanity's place in the galaxy was finally revealed to Earth's billions. They had never been restricted out of caution or protocol. They had been cultivated as a sacrifice, a civilization to be offered up when the ancient predators came hunting again. But humanity had refused its assigned role. With a single bluff about fictitious warships, Captain Nora Vega had forced the Harbingers to show themselves prematurely. With one real ship carrying revolutionary technology, humanity would attempt what the assembly had never dared: to fight back against the darkness that had kept the galaxy in fearful submission for eons. The Horizon vanished in a distortion of light and space, heading toward a confrontation that would determine the fate not just of humanity, but of all the galaxy's children who had lived too long in shadow. The war for survival had begun, and for the first time in cosmic memory, the Harbingers would face an enemy that refused to be harvested. The holographic message materialized in every major city center simultaneously, from Times Square to Tiananmen, from Trafalgar to Tokyo. Massive alien vessels hung silently in the sky, while their projection painted the clouds with impossible colors. The message was clear, delivered in perfect Earth standard. Your species has been assessed. You will submit to the galactic hegemony. Your tribute begins immediately. Director Elena Santos of the United Earth Defense Force stood in the Geneva Command Center, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical displays showing the alien vessels positioned around the globe. 20 years of preparing humanity's defenses in secret, and now the moment had finally arrived. She touched the neural interface at her temple, connecting directly to the command network. Status report, she commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of 6 billion lives resting on her next decisions. 17 vessels detected in high orbit, reported Colonel Chen, his holographic form flickering beside her. Energy readings suggest they're running minimal power. They're not even bothering to shield themselves. They don't consider us a threat. Elena allowed herself a small smile. That would be their first mistake. The hegemony's ambassador, a towering figure with crystalline features that seemed to shift and flow, continued its proclamation. Your species will provide the following annual tribute: 30% of all rare earth elements mined, 50% of your water ice reserves, and 1 million of your young for labor integration. Compliance is mandatory. Resistance is. The ambassador paused, its crystalline features rippling with what might have been amusement. Inadvisable. In the sprawling underground complex beneath the Antarctic ice, Dr. Marcus Rivera watched the transmission while running final diagnostics on Project Prometheus. The massive quantum computing array hummed around him, processing power equivalent to 1,000 conventional supercomputers working in perfect synchronization. This was the heart of humanity's secret weapon, an artificial intelligence designed specifically to outthink alien strategy. They're exactly what we expected, Marcus muttered to his research partner, Dr. Yuki Tanaka. Arrogant, technologically advanced, but predictable. Yuki nodded, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. Prometheus is ready. All simulated encounters show an 82% success rate against theorized hegemony tactical patterns. Back in Geneva, Alina received the confirmation she'd been waiting for. Every hidden defense installation was online. The orbital platforms disguised as communication satellites were armed and tracking. Most importantly, the quantum entanglement network that would allow Earth's forces to coordinate faster than light itself was operational. "Open a channel to all hegemony vessels," Alina commanded. The communications officer complied, and Alina straightened her uniform. This would be humanity's first official response to an alien civilization. History would remember these words. "This is Director Elena Santos of the United Earth Defense Force. We have received your demands." She paused, letting the tension build. "We reject them completely." The crystalline ambassador's form shimmered with what might have been surprise. "You do not comprehend your situation. The hegemony does not negotiate. We have subjugated 1,000 species. Your primitive technology cannot hope to." "You're right about one thing," Elena interrupted. "We don't negotiate with empires that threaten our people. But you've made a critical error in your assessment. We've known about you for decades. We've been preparing. And we're not as primitive as you think." She gave the signal. Across the globe, massive hangar doors hidden beneath ocean floors and mountain ranges began to open. From the depths of the Mariana Trench, from bunkers under the Himalayas, from the frozen wastes of Antarctica, humanity's secret fleet emerged. Thousands of ships, each powered by zero-point energy drives reverse-engineered from a crashed hegemony scout ship found 50 years ago. The ambassador's crystalline form fractured slightly, the first sign of genuine concern. "Impossible. Your species was under observation. We detected no such capabilities." "That was the point," Alina replied. "Now I'll make a counteroffer. Leave Earth space immediately. Acknowledge our sovereignty, and we'll forget this attempted extortion. Otherwise—" She let her words hang in the air as Prometheus began jamming the hegemony's quantum communications, isolating their ships from each other. The ambassador's form shattered and reformed, its voice carrying an edge of panic. "You dare threaten the hegemony? This is unprecedented. No species has ever." "Then we'll be the first," Alina cut in. "You have 1 hour to withdraw. Humanity will not bow. We will not submit. And if you force this conflict, you'll learn exactly what we're capable of." As the ambassador's transmission cut off, Alina turned to her command staff. "Begin Operation Thunderbolt. Let's show them why you don't corner a species that went from horse-drawn carriages to walking on the moon in less than 70 years. The next hour would determine humanity's place in the galaxy. But for the first time since the alien ships appeared, Alina felt truly confident. The hegemony had expected to find sheep ready for shearing. Instead, they'd found wolves in sheep's clothing. And the wolves were about to bare their teeth. The hegemony's response came not with words, but with fire. As the 1-hour deadline approached its final minutes, their ships began powering up weapon systems. Energy readings spiked across Earth's sensor network as alien vessels prepared to demonstrate their superiority. In the Antarctic Command Center, Dr. Rivera watched as Prometheus processed the incoming data. The AI's quantum processors worked at impossible speeds, analyzing the hegemony's weapon signatures and comparing them against decades of theoretical research. Energy pattern match confirmed, Prometheus announced, its neutral voice echoing through the command center. Their weapons technology aligns with design classification Alpha 7. Deploying countermeasures. Throughout Earth's hidden fleet, automated systems came online. Special resonance fields, designed specifically to disrupt Alpha 7 energy weapons, shimmered into existence around human ships. The technology was built from half a century of studying that single crashed scout ship, combined with humanity's own innovative leaps in quantum physics. Director Santos' voice came through the quantum network. "All ships, maintain defensive positions. Let them make the first move." The hegemony ships fired. Streams of coherent energy lanced toward Earth's major cities, a show of force meant to cow humanity into submission. But the beams never reached their targets. Instead, they encountered the planetary shield grid, a network of overlapping energy fields that had been hiding in plain sight, disguised as normal atmospheric phenomena. In Geneva, Alina allowed herself a moment of satisfaction as the alien weapons dissipated harmlessly against Earth's defenses. Colonel Chen, status report. Shield grid holding at 97% capacity, Chen reported. The hegemony's weapons are powerful, but exactly as predicted. They haven't innovated their basic technology in centuries. They didn't need to, until now. The crystalline ambassador's image appeared again, its form practically vibrating with rage. This defiance is pointless. You cannot hope to. Elena cut the transmission. Enough talk. Prometheus, initiate combat sequence Delta. All ships, execute according to AI tactical guidance. Earth's fleet moved with perfect coordination. Unlike the hegemony's rigid, traditional formations, human ships flowed like schools of fish, their movements guided by advanced swarm intelligence. They had trained for years in virtual simulations, perfecting tactics that no alien strategist would expect. The first wave of human vessels launched their primary weapons, not energy beams or conventional missiles, but clouds of self-replicating nanites, another innovation born from studying the scout ship, enhanced by human ingenuity. The microscopic machines swarmed over the nearest hegemony vessel, bypassing its shields completely. Within minutes, they began disrupting its hull at the molecular level. Remarkable, Dr. Tanaka whispered, watching the data streams. The nanites are even more effective than our simulations predicted. The hegemony's armor technology hasn't accounted for this kind of attack. The affected alien ship began to lose power as its systems were compromised from the outside in. Its crystalline crew transmitted desperate messages in their native language, but the quantum jamming prevented any response from their fleet. Alina's voice remained calm as she issued orders. Focus nanite deployment on their flagship. Colonel Chen, prepare the sonic disruptors. Dr. Rivera, have Prometheus analyze their evasive patterns for weaknesses. The hegemony fleet attempted to regroup, their formation shifting to protect their vulnerable flagship, but their movements were predictable, too reliant on centuries-old tactical doctrine. Earth's ships danced through their defensive screen, launching more nanite clouds and picking apart their formation. Director, Prometheus announced, I've detected a pattern in their shield modulation. Transmitting targeting data to all ships. Recommend concentrated fire when their shields cycle in approximately 47 seconds. Elena nodded. All ships acknowledge and prepare to fire on my mark. Load quantum torpedoes. The quantum torpedoes were perhaps humanity's greatest achievement, weapons that could briefly phase through normal spacetime, bypassing conventional shields entirely. They were enormously expensive and complex to produce. But this moment was exactly what they had been designed for. Hegemony shield cycle in 3, 2, 1. Mark. Earth's fleet fired as one. The torpedoes phased out of normal space an instant before impact, reappearing inside the alien ship's shields. The resulting explosions were spectacular, rippling through subspace and conventional reality simultaneously. 3 hegemony ships disappeared in flashes of quantum fire. The others began to retreat, their formation broken, their confidence shattered. For the first time in centuries, the mighty hegemony was facing an enemy they hadn't anticipated and couldn't easily overwhelm. In the Antarctic base, Dr. Rivera watched the battle unfolding with a mixture of pride and amazement. We've spent 50 years preparing for this moment, he said to Dr. Tanaka. They've spent centuries becoming complacent. Humanity's greatest strength, she replied, has always been our ability to innovate when cornered. We didn't just study their technology. We improved it. The battle was far from over. The hegemony still had thousands of ships that could be called in as reinforcements. But in these opening hours, humanity had proven something crucial. They were not helpless. They were not primitive, and they would not submit. As the remaining alien ships pulled back to a higher orbit, Elena opened a channel to all Earth forces. Well done, everyone. But stay alert. This was just their first wave. The real battle is about to begin. The next 48 hours transformed near-Earth space into a graveyard of crystalline ships. The hegemony, reeling from their initial losses, had called in their promised reinforcements, a vast armada of warships that darkened the sky. But humanity was done playing defense. Prometheus has identified their command and control architecture, Elena announced to the gathered military leaders in the Geneva bunker. The holographic tactical display showed hundreds of enemy vessels arranged in their traditional geometric formations. They rely on perfect synchronization through quantum links. Break those links, and their entire fleet loses coordination. Colonel Chen finished, a rare smile crossing his face, like cutting the head off a snake. Dr. Rivera's image flickered into the conference from Antarctica. We've modified our quantum jammers based on data from the first engagement. We can now target specific command frequencies, but we'll need to get close, really close. Elena studied the tactical display, her mind racing through possibilities. Then we give them something they've never seen before, Operation Ghost Protocol. The assembled leaders nodded grimly. They had drilled this strategy countless times, but never with real stakes. Now, humanity's fate would rest on its success. Across the globe, special hangars opened to reveal humanity's secret weapon, the Phantom-class vessels. These ships, barely larger than fighter craft, incorporated technology that even the hegemony had never mastered, true invisibility. Not just to sensors, but to light itself. Captain Sarah Chen, Colonel Chen's daughter, sat in the cockpit of her Phantom, running final checks. Her squad of 12 ships would spearhead the most ambitious military operation in human history. "Ghost Squadron, report in," she commanded, her voice steady despite the pressure. One by one, her pilots confirmed their readiness. They were the best Earth had to offer, trained since childhood in simulators based on hegemony combat data. Now it was time to put that training to the test. "Remember," Sarah broadcast to her team, "we only get one shot at this. The invisibility fields won't hold up under heavy fire. We get in, plant the quantum disruptors, and get out. Clean and quick." The launch countdown began. In bases around the world, hundreds of conventional Earth ships prepared to create a diversion. They would engage the hegemony fleet directly, drawing attention away from the invisible strike force. Elena's voice came through the command channel. "Operation Ghost Protocol is go. Good hunting, Ghost Squadron." The Phantom ships launched, immediately vanishing from all forms of detection. They accelerated toward the hegemony fleet, passing through the massive alien formation like ghosts through a wall. Each pilot had memorized the gaps in the enemy's sensor coverage, the blind spots in their defense grid. Sarah's hands were steady on her controls as she maneuvered between two massive hegemony cruisers. The alien ship's crystalline structures refracted starlight, creating beautiful but dangerous prismatic fields around them. One wrong move, one touch of those fields, and her invisibility would fail. "Target in sight," she whispered. "All units, proceed to designated coordinates." The hegemony's command ship was a behemoth of crystalline engineering, twice the size of anything else in their fleet. Its surface sparkled with countless communication arrays, the heart of their quantum network. Ghost Squadron split up, each ship moving to a precisely calculated position around the massive vessel. "Quantum disruptors armed," Sarah announced. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, execute." 12 quantum disruptors activated simultaneously, their effects invisible but devastating. The crystalline arrays on the command ship began to fracture, their perfect atomic structure disrupted by carefully tuned quantum frequencies. The effect cascaded through the hegemony fleet. Ship after ship lost its connection to the command network. Their perfect formation began to break apart as individual captains, unused to operating independently, struggled to maintain control. Disruptors planted, Sarah reported. Ghost Squadron. Full retreat. Main fleet, you're up. Earth's conventional forces struck like lightning. Led by Director Santos aboard her flagship, they tore into the disorganized hegemony fleet. Nanite clouds and quantum torpedoes found their marks with deadly accuracy, guided by Prometheus's predictive algorithms. In the Antarctic Command Center, Dr. Rivera and Dr. Tanaka watched the battle unfold through Prometheus's quantum sensors. Their entire command structure is collapsing, Yuki observed. They've never faced an enemy that could do this. They've never faced humanity before, Marcus replied, his eyes fixed on the tactical displays. We spent 50 years preparing for one battle. They spent 1,000 years expecting easy victories. The hegemony fleet began to retreat in earnest, their losses mounting by the minute. Individual ships, cut off from central command, either fled or fought with desperate, uncoordinated fury. Either way, they were easy prey for Earth's coordinated forces. Sarah guided her Phantom back through the chaos, watching with satisfaction as the mighty hegemony armada crumbled. Ghost Squadron returning to base, she reported. Mission accomplished. In Geneva, Elena allowed herself a moment of fierce pride. Humanity had not just survived first contact. They had shattered the hegemony's aura of invincibility. But she knew this was just the beginning. The hegemony controlled thousands of worlds, and they would not take this defeat lightly. All forces, maintain combat readiness, she ordered. This was a significant victory, but the war is far from over. The hegemony will be back, and next time, they'll know what we're capable of. The battle for Earth's freedom had been won. The war for humanity's place in the galaxy was about to begin. 3 months into the war, Dr. Rivera made a discovery that would change everything. He was analyzing data from captured hegemony ships when Prometheus flagged an anomaly in their crystalline technology. Director Santos, he called through the quantum network, his voice tight with excitement. I need you to see this immediately. In the Geneva Command Center, Elena watched as Marcus's findings appeared on her display. The data showed microscopic fractures in the hegemony's crystalline technology, tiny imperfections that were spreading throughout their entire network. Their entire civilization is built on crystalline quantum architecture, Marcus explained. Ships, weapons, communications, everything. But our quantum disruptors didn't just break their command network. They started a chain reaction at the atomic level. Dr. Tanaka joined the call, her hologram appearing beside Marcus's. The hegemony's technology is perfect, too perfect. They've engineered their crystals to maintain quantum coherence across vast distances, but that perfection is their weakness. One flaw spreads like a crack in glass. Elena leaned forward, her mind racing with possibilities. How far has it spread? Based on our analysis of recent battles, the disruption is propagating through their quantum network, Yuki replied. Every hegemony ship that connects to their network becomes infected. Their entire empire is built on interconnected crystals, and we introduced an atomic-level cancer. Colonel Chen's tactical assessment was immediate. They'll have to shut down their network to stop the spread. Their entire civilization will fragment. But before Earth could exploit this discovery, the hegemony launched their most desperate attack yet. A massive fleet, larger than any before, emerged from hyperspace. At its center was something new, a ship of pure energy, crackling with power. Energy signatures off the scale, Sarah Chen reported from her patrol route. They've built some kind of super weapon, reading quantum fluctuations unlike anything we've seen. The super weapon fired, and a massive beam of coherent energy lanced toward Earth. But instead of hitting the planetary shields, it began to warp space itself around the planet. They're trying to fold space-time, Prometheus announced, its neutral voice carrying an edge of urgency. Analysis suggests they intend to isolate Earth in a pocket universe. Elena's response was immediate. Dr. Rivera, can we use the crystal disruption against their new weapon? Better, Marcus replied. Their super weapon is one massive crystal matrix, if we can get close enough with the right frequency. Ghost Squadron, Alina commanded, you have your target. Captain Chen, this is our moment. Sarah's Phantom ships launched immediately, their improved invisibility fields rendering them completely undetectable. As they approached the energy vessel, its true nature became clear, a massive crystalline structure channeling unprecedented amounts of power. This is either going to save Earth or tear space-time apart, Sarah muttered as she maneuvered into position. Ghost Squadron, arm quantum disruptors. Maximum power. The disruptors activated, their frequency precisely calibrated to match the superweapon's crystal structure. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, like a sheet of glass struck by a sonic wave, the massive ship began to vibrate. Energy readings becoming unstable, Prometheus reported. Crystal matrix experiencing cascade failure. The superweapon's surface began to fracture, energy bleeding from the growing fissures. The space-time distortion around Earth collapsed as the ship lost coherence. All ships, clear the area. Alina ordered. That thing's going to. The superweapon exploded in a burst of quantum energy, the blast rippling through subspace. When the light faded, a third of the hegemony fleet had been destroyed, and the rest were in disarray. But the effect spread far beyond the battlefield. Across hegemony space, their quantum network was collapsing. The disruption, amplified by the superweapon's destruction, raced through their empire at faster-than-light speeds. In the Antarctic Command Center, Marcus and Yuki watched as reports flooded in from their long-range sensors. Their entire civilization is going dark, Yuki whispered. Every crystal-based system is failing. Not failing, Marcus corrected. Evolving. The quantum disruption isn't destroying their technology. It's forcing it to adapt, to become less rigid, more human. Alina understood the implications immediately. The hegemony's perfect, unchanging empire was being forced to change, to innovate, to grow. They would either adapt or collapse. Send a message on all frequencies, she commanded, to the hegemony and all their subject worlds. The age of crystal perfection is over. The time for evolution has come. As the remaining hegemony ships retreated in chaos, humanity had achieved more than just victory. They had introduced chaos into an ordered universe, forcing adaptation where there had been only stagnation. The galaxy would never be the same. The great halls of the Galactic Assembly, once the seat of hegemony power, now hosted a different kind of gathering. 1 year after the quantum disruption event, representatives from 1,000 worlds convened to forge a new future. At the center of it all stood Director Elena Santos, Earth's ambassador to the transformed galaxy. The chamber itself told the story of change. The once perfect crystalline architecture now displayed beautiful imperfections, organic patterns that reflected the evolution forced upon hegemony technology. Former subject species filled the seats, many seeing their former overlords as equals for the first time. The old order is dead, Elena announced to the assembled delegates. But from its ashes, we have an opportunity to build something better. Not an empire of conformity, but an alliance of diversity. In the years since the quantum disruption, the galaxy had transformed. The hegemony's slave worlds had gained independence, their crystal-based infrastructure evolving into hybrid systems that merged alien precision with organic adaptability. Earth had shared its technology freely, helping worlds rebuild and advance. From her position in the diplomatic chamber, Sarah Chen watched the proceedings with pride. Ghost Squadron had become a symbol of the new era, training pilots from former hegemony worlds in the art of innovative combat tactics. The humans didn't just defeat us. A crystalline being, once part of the hegemony leadership, addressed the assembly. They showed us our own stagnation. For millennia, we sought perfection through uniformity. We were wrong. In the Antarctic Command Center, now a hub of interstellar research, Dr. Rivera and Dr. Tanaka led teams of alien scientists in studying the evolved crystal technology. What had started as a weapon of disruption had become a catalyst for unprecedented technological growth. The quantum disruption didn't just change their technology, Yuki explained to a group of visiting scientists. It changed their entire worldview. The hegemony learned that true strength comes from adaptation, not stasis. Prometheus, too, had evolved. The AI had integrated aspects of crystalline computing, becoming a bridge between human and alien ways of thinking. Its predictions now helped guide the development of new technologies that combine the best of both worlds. Colonel Chen, addressing the Earth Defense Force's graduating class, summed up the transformation. We didn't just win a war. We started a revolution. Not through conquest, but by proving that imperfection, humanity's greatest flaw, is actually the key to evolution. As the Galactic Assembly debated the framework for a new interstellar coalition, Alina reflected on humanity's journey. They had prepared for war, but achieved something greater. They had introduced change to an unchanging universe. The future we propose, she continued her address, is one of continuous growth. Earth pledges its resources and innovation to help all species reach their potential, not through submission, but through collaboration. The response was overwhelming. Species after species pledged support for the new coalition. Even former hegemony worlds, their crystal technology, now a hybrid of precision and adaptability, saw the wisdom in change. Let the galaxy remember this moment, Alina declared, not as the end of an empire, but as the beginning of an age where every species can contribute their unique strengths to our shared future. In orbit above Earth, the new coalition headquarters took shape, a structure that merged crystalline precision with organic flexibility, symbolizing the union of different technological philosophies. It would stand as a testament to humanity's greatest victory, teaching an ancient galaxy how to evolve. The final vote was unanimous. The Galactic Coalition would replace the hegemony, with Earth holding a seat on its governing council. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not through conquest, but by proving that their greatest perceived weakness, their imperfection, was actually their greatest strength. As the assembly concluded, Alina received a message from Dr. Rivera. The latest scans are in. The quantum evolution is still spreading, creating new possibilities we never imagined. We didn't just change their technology. We woke up the galaxy. Alina smiled, watching the diverse species mingling in the chamber. The hegemony had demanded tribute from humanity. Instead, humanity had given the galaxy something far more valuable, the gift of change. As delegates filed out of the chamber, a young crystalline being approached Alina. My ancestors would never have believed this possible, it said, its structure showing the beautiful imperfections of the new age. Thank you for teaching us how to grow. The war was over. The real adventure, building a galaxy where innovation and diversity were celebrated rather than suppressed, was just beginning. And humanity, the species that had dared to challenge perfection itself, would help lead the way.